I hate introductions, don't you? But it seems like they're always necessary. So here goes. I'm Ashley. I'm a wife, mom, pastor, and missionary's kid, which is double trouble if you didn't know. And if you're in this space, we're here to learn about who God is, who we are in Him, and how to do faith in the real, meaning the real messy. Hello, everyone. I feel like August is a month of special guests, and this guy with me here today is extra special. This is my baby brother. This is Wesley, or Wes as we know him.
Go by both.
Yep, and he is currently living in Texas. He's up here visiting the Arctic tundra in Michigan.
He whims with his heat. It is
I know.
not hot. It feels really good.
Yeah, the kids are like, we can't stay outside, it's too hot. No, it's fine. How hot does it get? Like, how hot is it right now at your house?
I mean, actually, right now, today's not bad. Whenever Hudson was asking earlier, or I can't remember who it was, one of the boys was asking, it was about 96, but it usually gets up to like 104-ish during the summer, during the hot days, sometimes in late August, so.
Perspective, because it was in the lower 80s, I think, here today, maybe?
Yeah, around 86.
Yeah,
so not.
And we thought it was hot.
Yeah, it felt good.
It felt good. No, thank you. All right, so I wanted to have you on here because you and I have an interesting history. I mean, besides the fact that we grew up in the same house, there's 6 years difference between us.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever told you the story, but I do remember the day you were born. I remember being taken to the hospital to meet you, and they put you in my arms, and I held you, and then I said, "He stinks." And I was corrected that you did not stink, and that was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Not.
Yeah. And from that moment on, I decided to prove to you what a real stinker is. You
did that very well. I think you lived up to a younger sibling to the hilt.
Yeah, I am old enough now where I can admit that.
Yes, but I'm also old enough that I can admit I was a little bit of a brat, too. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
A little bit. So I often tell people that I honestly really didn't like you for a good chunk of, if not most of our childhood.
Yeah.
It was honestly a hate relationship, I think.
Yeah. In
many ways. So why don't we share some of our childhood memories since they're so warm and fuzzy?
So, I mean, we were kind of talking about this a little bit earlier. There's two that will always stick out in my mind. There was one when our other sister is involved in this too, but you did something, I still don't remember to this day what it was, but we decided that we were going to tell mom and dad on you, and you did not want that to happen. So your solution was to block the door, and we were not going to escape to tell mom and dad, which I don't know what you thought, you can block the door for forever in our life. But you got smart, and you're like, okay, I will not tell mom and dad, but or you can't tell mom and dad, but I'll give you candy if you don't tell mom and dad. That was your solution.
Yes.
And us being the young gullible siblings believed you that we would get candies if we did not tell mom and dad.
I think if I remember correctly, I used candy quite a bit in our relationship. Like, for example, they called me Felicity. If you have to look this up, but there was a TV show called Road to Avonlea, and there was an older sibling in the show named Felicity. She was very bossy. She always wanted everyone to pick up, and that's what they called me, Felicity. Okay. And I will admit, it was true.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I would do as a intelligent older sibling was to bargain with you, and I would say, if you will do this chore for me, I will give you candy.
Yeah.
I never did.
No, you never did.
So I'm gonna fix that.
Did you actually give me candy today?
Okay.
Because
if you're watching on YouTube, here's some Smarties.
And you have to understand, Smarties is like one of my favorite things.
I just dumped them all over him, if you're listening. I have bottle caps.
Where'd you get the bottle caps from?
The store. I have Runts. I have Gobstoppers. Not the obnoxiously big one that would take you weeks.
Way too long to eat.
Yeah. I have some Sweet Tarts.
Yes.
Chewies. And just because I really do love you, Fun Dip.
So 2 things for you guys to learn. Fun Dip is my favorite candy because I'm apparently a kid at heart still. And 2, I don't like chocolate. I like tart candy.
Yeah.
So
So I just this is my first step in making past
making
wrongs
amends.
right.
I'm gonna have to stop myself from eating these during this.
You can eat it. It's fine. I ate Oreos in a recent podcast and like licked.
If you hear a crinkling sound, it's me trying to slightly open the wrapper.
That's what it is. So I mean, I have to make this right with you and our sister Kelsey. So
Yeah.
you may have to share.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. I may eat the sweet tarts.
So that memory for most.
Yeah.
And then you also built living up to the older sibling, making it clean all the time. Every time mom and dad went out, it was like your power hungriness. Like, I'm going to make you guys clean this house. I don't know if you wanted to make yourself look good. So when mom and dad came home, you're like, look how clean the house is. But yeah, we did not like you for that at all.
It's so funny because now as a mom, I feel like unfortunately I still take on that role. And I'll often tell my friends like, I'm the captain, you know, from the Sound of Music. I don't want to be the captain, but you know, when it comes to cleaning, I'm the captain.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wasn't very nice to you most of the time.
Yeah. What are your favorite stories?
Well, this is one of my favorites. You were, and I think still are, a Cheerio guy.
Yeah.
Like plain Cheerios, no sweetening, no fruit or anything in it, just plain. And you were like almost religious about your cereal. You know, you get up, you have your cereal, and you
And we go back to bed and come back to breakfast.
Yes. So I remember one Christmas morning waking up, I was so excited because it's Christmas. I can't wait to rip into the presents. And mom gave us the option. Why? I don't know. But she said, would you like to open presents first or have some breakfast first? And you said cereal first. I mean, what's wrong with you? I just remember being so frustrated.
I really like Cheerios.
How do you choose Cheerios over Christmas presents? You know, it was just like, really? Really? And then I remember just kind of feeling like, well, of course he got his way. He's the baby. You know? You went through this karate phase that I remember vividly. And you would come in like karate chop Kelsey or I. And I would respond so well by popping you back. And then I still can remember the look. Like, you just did it. And you would like work up the tears, and then you would run to mom and dad. She hit me. And I would say, he hit me first. Doesn't matter. You hit him back.
Yeah,
and
I didn't get in trouble for hitting you first. They didn't deny that happened. I just didn't get in trouble for it.
It's because you were the baby. The baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a brat. I really was.
Well, you know, it takes two, right? So I was a brat too, but
I will say, I think we made amends, maybe this for me and my part, in 6th grade, or at the end of my 6th grade. I don't know if you remember this. Because we were in Tennessee at the time, and you were going to stay with Grandma and Grandpa, and we were going to go back overseas.
yeah.
And I think you and I had I don't remember what we said, but I remember you and I had to talk out on the porch. And I'm like, we're going to be separate. I think for that moment I didn't hate you. And when you came and visited us overseas, there was no like hate relationship after that.
Yeah.
At least on my part.
That's what I remember too.
Yeah.
I think that oddly enough, the distance kind of healed our relationship and kind of made us decide, do we want this or not?
Yeah.
And so it was a lot different coming back. And I found out I really missed you. And ironically, I mean, for the most part, since that time we've lived separate.
Yeah.
And you know, lots of distance between us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not always easy.
No.
I'm going to talk a little bit about sibling relationships and just relationships in general and distance, because that's something all of us in our family are very well acquainted with.
Yeah.
And we know what it is to try to maintain a relationship. And I feel like most of the time when there's distance, most relationships don't make it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I would agree. But I think in that case, a lot of times it's like dating relationships, and there's not a family component to it, whereas sometimes we don't have a choice. Like, we're family, we're always going to somehow find a way.
Yeah.
While with dating, you're not.
Right. Or even friends.
That's true.
But that being said, I've often thought about, just because we're family doesn't mean we're entitled or guaranteed a relationship.
Yeah.
I think sometimes families kind of go into relationship thinking, well, this is a sure thing because we're family, so this is bound to happen. And at least for me, what I've discovered is that's not really how it works. I mean, a family relationship is like any relationship. You have to choose to be an active part of it and to do your part of it.
Put in an effort.
Right. You can't just sit back and wait for something to happen, especially when there's distance, because nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it's been challenging because we are, not only do we have distance, but Kelsey, you and I are all in different seasons of life. So Kelsey has young children right now. My children are 8 and up, and you don't have kids right now, but you have a full-time, very demanding career. And so, you know, if you were to talk to someone about maintaining a relationship over distance, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Making time for communication, I think. I think a lot of times, I mean, granted, I am very thankful we live in a very electronic world. It has its pros and cons, but a big pro is the ability for us to communicate across the distance. We don't have to, wait for months for a letter.
Right.
We can send a text message, or now we with Marco Polo, we can send videos back and forth.
Yeah.
Or just call on the phone, even though I'm not a big caller on the phone person, but still.
Mm-hmm. I think it really helps.
Yeah, I think it's just making an effort for communication as much as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's very much a two-way street.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed. So I remember when Eric and I were getting counseling before marriage counseling. The person counseling us said, you've heard the phrase that marriage is 50-50, but that's not true. There are times when one person in the relationship might be carrying 80% of it and the other person 20 or whatever, because things happen and seasons happen. And I see that in our relationship too. I mean, there are times when I'm like, wow, he's on it. He's doing really well with this communication bit and reaching out and, being the one to initiate that. And I'm not doing that very well right now. And I think vice versa. Mm-hmm. But it's just that recognition that making it happen doesn't fall primarily on either of us. It's like, we're just going to pick up where we can, and we have that understanding, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's hard still sometimes too, like for you when you got 3 boys, trying to keep track of, and I try to call and like, okay, she's got 3 boys. Yeah. She's going to be maybe a bit before she responds, and being okay with that.
Right.
Or the vice versa, maybe at work, and you're like calling me, and like, I can't answer right now, I'm at work, or whatever.
Yeah.
So remembering later on to respond, even though it might be tiring.
Which I really do have to applaud you for, because, and I mentioned your career, you're a pharmacist, you work a lot of hours, and then you have sisters who are like, can my kid take this medicine? How much should we take? And we're like demanding of you and trying to initiate, and you're always really good about getting back to us when you can and being that open door, which makes the difference. But it's funny because you talk about the kids. I mean, I think a lot of my phone calls or my polos to you are, hey, I'm in the car. I have a few minutes alone. So,
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. And that's usually when we'll send like 5 or 6 polos like quickly back and forth. It may be, 3 minutes long each, but we'll send it back as quickly as we can. But also too, I've just learned with actually both of you, both my sisters, you're going to get interrupted all the time.
Always.
And I mean, honestly, it makes me smile on my end, so I don't mind.
Well, poor Kelsey. I mean, she's in the phase where she can't even go to the bathroom without somebody banging on the door, the little fingers going underneath.
Clinging to her leg the whole way.
Although my end is, I'm trying to use the restroom and I hear an explosion or something outside. I'm like,
or worse, silence.
What? Yes, that is the worst. Silence. All right, so another thing I want to touch on, because I think this is something that you and Kelsey and I are all trying to work on, is we want to go deeper. We don't want our relationships to just be surface. Yeah. And sometimes that's hard because life is happening and we're all in different places. But we've had some really, deep conversations in the last, 6 months in particular, where we've...
Well, more than that, because last year was all my stuff.
That's true. So. That's true, yeah. I mean, you have let us into some really deep places in your life, and, trying to return that favor and just meet each other where we're at. And I think for me, I'm learning that is really such a key component to genuine relationship. You can't always just be fine.
Yeah.
or just offer tidbits of surface level and expect a relationship to thrive. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you would agree with this or not, but it seems to me like real relationships, my closest relationships thrive because we've gone to the deep places. Not that we're always in the deep places, but we've been there and we know they're there. And it's like this, I don't know, it seems to just cement the relationship in a different kind of way. What do you think?
I think so. I mean, I think it's more than just, oh, I know, where her life has been, or I know more about your life. It's knowing that you can rely on the other person, either to just vent or to listen, or sometimes just get advice from. Having that history of always being there for each other, I think that's what has made the difference for us.
Yeah. I think the sibling relationship is so precious too because you just mentioned the history. I mean, we understand our background
Yeah.
in a way that nobody else really can. We grew up with the same parents in the same house. Although I think, sometimes we might have different perspectives from it
Yeah.
because we were different people. It's still an understanding that is hard to find with anybody else, just as siblings.
Yeah, but I mean, that's also part of it. What you just said was, we may not see things differently, but
Right.
taking the time to respect each other still, I think, is the other big component to it. Is, how often do siblings argue and stuff, but sometimes you have to just set everything aside and be like, we're still family. I'm still going to love you. I'm still going to respect you. And if we don't see eye to eye, who cares?
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world.
Right. And without going into too much detail here, because I want to respect you and other people in our stories, you and I have some really big differences in the way that we, our worldviews and everything.
Yeah.
And we live in this world that's like everybody has to agree, right?
Yeah.
And I love that you have been so understanding of the fact that we don't have to agree on everything to have a relationship. And you said such a key word. You were talking about respect. I mean, I can remember one time, I'm so ashamed of this memory, but you were going through some things and you were making some life choices that I just like vehemently disagreed with. And I, full out older sister, I'm going to make you see my way, right? And I remember calling you on the phone. I was super emotional, not that I'm typically very emotional. and we were trying to talk through all of our stuff, and I was getting more and more worked up with you. And I remember literally like yelling at you in the phone. I don't know if you remember this.
I don't remember this.
Okay. No, wow. Maybe I shouldn't have brought this one up. But yeah, I was yelling at you. And I remember just like, I think I may have even hung up on you. Like, it was just like, I cannot do this right now. Psh. And immediately feeling like, okay, I know that wasn't right. And so I called you back and, apologized, and we were able to talk through it. But that moment sticks out in my brain because for me, it was like, that is what I don't want to be. That is the conversation that I don't want to have. We can talk about hard things, but we don't need to be yelling at each other, even though we're siblings. We can have respectful conversations, be respectful in our tone, and respectful in the way that we are sharing.
Yeah.
And I think that so many people just want to be seen and they want to be heard. Even if at the end of the day we disagree, it's that, like, I love you and I want to see you and I want to understand where you're at. And at least for me, that's been another thing that I think has drawn me closer to you.
I think it goes more than just, being heard for each other. I think you and I in particular have a very unique relationship in that, I can come to you about Christianity stuff and be like, this is what I think, but I want to know what you think, and vice versa. And know that you're probably going to see something that I may not agree with, but I still appreciate your point of view.
Right.
And I think that's something very unique that you and I are able to somehow establish. I don't know how it got established, but somehow it did.
Either. And I don't either, but I think it's been helpful. And not to be threatened by the other.
Right.
Like, we don't have to be threatened because we have differences.
Right. I think part of that is, though, like, because of our understanding, you can say your point of view, and I know you're not coming across in a, like, well, I'm going to try to make you see it from my point of view, and vice versa. Like, there's neither one of us tries to get the other to change or to change the way they view something or their opinion on something. It's just, this is what I think, or this is what I believe, and the other person says, great.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling me.
Yeah. And I think you've even heard me say a few times, like, well, it's not my job to change you, you know, and that understanding that when I come into a conversation with you is just okay. And being able to understand where you're at and you being understand where I'm at helps us navigate as we step forward. And there are just times where it's like, all right, well, we are just going to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And yet at the end of the day, you are still my brother and I love you and I want to have a relationship with you. And, you know, we work on it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not always easy just because we're siblings.
Yeah.
I wish that were so.
Yeah.
But.
Although I can't think of any big disagreements recently. I think there might be a few misunderstandings, but then we're quick to like.
Yeah.
But even like we don't get upset. We're like, help me understand what you're coming.
Yes.
Or where you're coming from, and
Yes.
then we can expand upon it. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see where you're coming from now.
Yeah. Again, without going into any detail because it was between us, but there was something recently that you had
That's
said.
thinking of the same thing.
Yeah, and I was like, is this what you meant? And just giving you that opportunity instead of saying, hey, and getting all defensive, just help me understand what you meant.
Yeah.
And I think in any relationship that's beneficial. I know in my relationship with Eric, it's we have better communication when I'm like, this is what I heard, but what did you mean?
Yeah.
Instead of getting defensive and
Immediately,
you know, start attacking.
Yeah.
Which is the easiest thing to do.
So I mean, as far as like long distance and stuff, I guess we should probably circle back to that. But we kind of took a tangent.
That's okay.
But I mean, all of this kind of relates to that. Is like we take the time to go through all of this, despite, you know, our busy lives being in separate states. We find a way to communicate all of this through so many different mediums to make sure we stay connected.
Yeah, which is worth it. It's not easy, and there are times when I know for myself I can say I could do a better job, but at the end of the day, I think both of us have this, just we're gonna make this work. So hey, I know that there have been times you're like, it's been a while. Are you still alive? Have the boys duct taped you to a chair?
I mean, that may happen.
It could happen. Or I'm like, it's been a while. Are you binging on candy right now?
That also may happen.
Yes.
Sugar crash is real.
Yes. I have to share this because it's so funny. Both Kelsey and Wesley don't like, I was going to say sugar, but I'm staring at all this sugar.
We like different forms of sugar.
Explain this.
We don't like chocolate. We don't like cake. We don't like pies and stuff.
Yes. Okay.
But we like tart, sour type things.
Yes. I'm going to throw this out here because I was completely selfish. And I was one of those. We have this video of when we were young. And I think it was Kelsey maybe getting a birthday gift in the mail. And I was like, where's mine? Where's my birthday gift? And I was all mad. And I can remember being so annoyed with both of you because it's like, who doesn't want birthday cake? Come on now. I want birthday cake.
Kelsey and I were just talking about the other day about how on my birthday I had Cheez-Its for my birthday cake. And everyone else was eating cake, but I had Cheez-Its.
Yeah, Mom would have cake for your friends, but not for you. It's still that way.
The weird kid eating Cheez-Its on their birthday.
It's inconceivable. You and Kelsey are also really big movie buffs. Both of you can spit out like lyrics and movie lines like nobody else's business. And I'm the one over here like, I'll try to say it and then I flub it. And I'm like, I don't know. But I've got a few princess lines down. Princess Bride lines down.
Yeah, I think you do.
But just a few, like,
yeah,
you know. Life is misery. That's
life is pain. I know.
I can't even see. This is exactly
We'll move over that one. That's a gimme.
All right. Well, this was painful at the end, but I really appreciate you being here, Wes. It's been so good to have this time together. I was trying to remember, when is the last time we were actually physically in the same space?
It was last year.
Was it?
Yeah, I came last year.
You came during COVID year? Mm-hmm. See, I don't even remember.
And I had my wipes and on the flight.
That's right. Wow, I thought it was like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
The years are just molting together, I think, for me. Especially COVID year, it was weird. But
that year doesn't count.
Yeah, definitely not. Anyway, thanks so much for being here, Wes. Enjoy all your candy. I'll keep working on
I will try to
my
share
debt.
it, but I may have difficulty doing that.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you all next time. And appreciate you being here in particular.
Yes.
Bye.